Wait, she didn't leave her daughter at that facility. She signed documents blocking every phone call and family visit too. What kind of mother plans something like that and expects nobody to notice?
Your Honor, my client is under severe emotional distress. The lawyer's voice echoed through the courtroom while I stared at the woman beside him. My mother, 18 years. 18 years since she shoved a trash bag full of my clothes across a parking lot and told strangers I was dangerous. Now she stood 10 feet away pretending to cry for sympathy. She still hadn't recognized me. I kept my expression flat and opened the case file slowly. Fraud charges, abuse allegations, misuse of charity funds connected to youth shelters. Then I saw the shelter name, Blackwood Youth Residence. My chest locked instantly. The same building where they dragged kids into isolation rooms for screaming too long. The same place my mother left me when I was 14. I looked up carefully. That's when she finally noticed my nameplate. Not my face. My name. Everything in her expression collapsed at once. Before we continue with this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Mrs. Carter, I said quietly, do you still tell people your daughter ran away? Her lawyer turned toward her and went completely pale. My mother grabbed the edge of the defense table like she was about to fall over. Her lawyer leaned closer immediately. Linda, what's happening? She didn't answer him. She kept staring at me, not at the robe, not at the bench, at my face, like she was trying to force herself to believe I wasn't real. The courtroom had gone strangely quiet by then. Reporters in the back stopped typing. Even the clerk looked confused. I could feel my pulse pounding in my throat, but I kept my voice steady. You claimed your daughter disappeared at 14, I said. Correct. Her lawyer stepped in fast. Too fast. Your Honor, I don't understand the relevance of. You will. That shut him up. My mother finally spoke, but her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. Naomi. Hearing my name from her mouth after 18 years almost knocked the air out of me. Because suddenly I wasn't in a courtroom anymore. I was back in that parking lot. Rain hitting the windshield. My backpack sitting beside my feet. Her new husband refusing to look at me while staff members waited outside the car. You need help, she kept saying. Over and over. Like repeating it enough times would make it true. I remember begging her not to leave me there. I remember the doors locking behind me. And I remember watching her drive away, without turning around once. Your Honor? The prosecutor asked carefully. I blinked hard and looked back down at the file in front of me. Blackwood Youth Residence. My stomach twisted again. The prosecution continued. We recently obtained financial records tied to Blackwood and several affiliated youth programs connected to the defendant's charity foundation. My mother's breathing changed instantly. Shorter. Faster. Fear. Real fear. Not grief. Not shame. Fear of something being exposed. The prosecutor opened another folder. There's also evidence suggesting specific children were kept in long-term placement under private financial arrangements. The room shifted immediately. One reporter actually stood up. Her lawyer frowned. What kind of arrangements? The prosecutor slid a document across the table. Then everything happened at once. My mother lunged forward. Don't. Too late. Her lawyer looked down at the signature page. And all the color drained from his face. He looked from the document to my mother like he'd never seen her before. Linda, he whispered. What is this? She reached for the papers, but the prosecutor pulled them back first. For the record, he said calmly, this document authorizes Blackwood Youth Residence to deny all outside family contact with minor resident Naomi Carter. Every muscle in my body locked. I already knew she abandoned me. But this was different. Because for 18 years, part of me still believed the lie she told me that night. Nobody wants the responsibility anymore. I swallowed hard. The prosecutor kept reading. The authorization includes blocked visitation requests, blocked phone access, and permanent communication restrictions requested by the parent guardian. Requested. Not recommended. Requested. My mother started shaking her head immediately. That's not what happened. The prosecutor didn't even look at her. It carries your signature on every page. The courtroom erupted into whispers. I heard someone near the back say, Oh my God. Another reporter rushed out the side door, with their phone already raised. Her lawyer flipped through the documents faster now, panic building across his face with every page. Then he froze. There are payment records attached to this. Nobody moved. The prosecutor nodded once. Monthly transfers routed through shell charities connected to the defendant's husband. The lawyer looked sick. You were paying them to keep her there? My mother stood abruptly. You don't understand what she was like. That sentence hit harder than yelling would've. Because it was the exact same defense she used when I was 14. Difficult. Unstable. Dangerous. Words adults use when they need everyone else to stop listening to a child. I leaned back slowly and looked directly at her. What exactly was I like, Mom? She opened her mouth. But the prosecutor spoke first. There's one more thing attached to the file. He lifted a sealed envelope. My handwriting was across the front. And suddenly I couldn't breathe. Because I recognized it instantly. The statement I wrote 3 days after she abandoned me. The statement Blackwood told me had been destroyed. The prosecutor opened the envelope carefully. My hands were already shaking before he said a word. I hadn't seen that handwriting since I was 14 years old. Small letters. Uneven pressure. Certain words scratched so hard into the paper, they almost tore through. Back then, I thought if I explained everything clearly enough, some adult would finally help me. I was still stupid enough to believe adults cared. Your Honor, the prosecutor said quietly, this statement was recovered from archived intake records during the state investigation into Blackwood. My mother suddenly stood up again.
No.
The entire courtroom turned toward her. Her lawyer grabbed her arm immediately. Sit down. No, you can't read that. Too desperate. Too terrified. The prosecutor looked at the judge beside me. Permission to proceed? Granted. The sound of the paper unfolding felt louder than the courtroom itself. Then he started reading. My name is Naomi Carter. I am not violent. I am not dangerous. My mom said she's sending me here because I heard something I wasn't supposed to hear.
Silence.
Pure silence. I could actually hear cameras clicking in the back now. The prosecutor continued. I heard my mom and her husband arguing about missing money from their charity. He grabbed my arm when they realized I was outside the office door. Her lawyer slowly turned toward her. She wouldn't look at him anymore. My mom said people would believe her over me because I'm just a child. My chest tightened so hard it hurt because I remembered writing that sentence, crying while I wrote it, begging the intake counselor to send it to the police. But Blackwood never reported it. They buried it, just like they buried every other kid nobody wanted to hear. Then came the final paragraph, the one that made the prosecutor pause before reading it aloud. If something happens to me here, it's because my mom said I know too much. The courtroom exploded into whispers. My mother covered her mouth instantly, not shocked, cornered. Her lawyer pulled away from her completely now. You told me she had severe behavioral issues. She did, my mother snapped. But nobody believed her anymore. The prosecutor reached for another folder. Actually, he said, we also found records showing Blackwood received bonus payments for extended placements involving specific minors. He looked directly at my mother. Your daughter was one of them. Then the courtroom doors opened behind us, and a woman escorted by investigators stepped inside. The second I saw her face, my stomach dropped. Ms. Alvarez. The second she saw me on the bench, Ms. Alvarez stopped walking. Her eyes filled instantly. 18 years disappeared in one look. I remembered her sneaking extra food onto my tray when staff put me on restriction weeks. I remembered her whispering, "Keep your head down," after isolation punishments. She was one of the only people at Blackwood who ever looked at us like we were still human. My mother recognized her too, and panic hit her so hard she nearly stumbled backward. No, she whispered again. Ms. Alvarez sat down slowly, hands trembling against the witness rail. The prosecutor approached carefully. Please state your name. Maria Alvarez. And what was your role at Blackwood Youth Residence? I worked intake and behavioral supervision from 2005 to 2011. A wave of murmuring spread through the courtroom again, because suddenly this wasn't just about fraud anymore. Now there was a witness. A real one. The prosecutor asked the next question carefully. Did you know Naomi Carter? Ms. Alvarez looked directly at me. Yes. My throat tightened instantly. Then she turned toward the jury section and spoke words that changed everything. She should never have been placed there. My mother shut her eyes immediately. Ms. Alvarez continued anyway. Naomi wasn't violent. She wasn't unstable. Most of us knew that within the first week. Then why was she kept there? The prosecutor asked. Ms. Alvarez hesitated. Fear crossed her face. Real fear. Like even after all these years, Blackwood still terrified her. Then she answered. Because her placement was marked protected. The room went still. The prosecutor stepped closer. Explain that. It meant the resident had outside financial backing, restricted communication, special handling instructions. I already knew where this was going, but hearing it out loud still made me feel sick. The prosecutor held up another document. Who approved Naomi Carter's protected placement? Ms. Alvarez looked straight at my mother. She did. My mother slammed both hands against the table suddenly. You have no idea what she put us through. The courtroom flinched. But Ms. Alvarez didn't. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of copied incident reports. I kept these because I knew one day someone would lie about those children. Then she lifted the top page and quietly destroyed the last version of my mother's story. These are records of punishments Naomi received for repeatedly asking staff to call her grandmother. My entire body went cold. Grandmother. For 18 years, I believed she never came for me, that she chose my mother over me, that everyone did. The prosecutor took the reports carefully. Punishments. Ms. Alvarez nodded. Isolation. Meal restrictions. Communication lockdowns. The courtroom reacted instantly. Even people in the gallery looked horrified now. Ms. Alvarez opened one of the copied reports with shaking hands. Resident requested outside family contact again. Resident informed no approved relatives remain available. I stopped hearing the rest for a second, because I remembered that day. I remembered sitting on the floor outside the nurse's office begging to use the phone. I remembered them telling me nobody wanted me anymore. And I remembered eventually believing it. The prosecutor spoke again. Were those statements true?
No.
The answer came fast.
Certain.
She had a grandmother calling constantly, Ms. Alvarez said. Letters too. Legal requests. Blackwood intercepted all of them under protected placement orders. The room exploded. Reporters rushed for the doors again. Court officers started warning people to stay quiet. But I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. Because suddenly, every lonely birthday, every holiday, every night, I cried myself to sleep believing I'd been erased. Was manufactured. My mother did it intentionally. The prosecutor turned slowly toward my mother. You blocked all family contact? She was trying to destroy our lives, my mother shouted. There it was. Not regret. Not guilt. Anger. Because after 18 years, she was still trying to justify it. Ms. Alvarez looked at me again, and her expression changed completely. Softer now.
Sad.
There's something else you deserve to know. My chest tightened instantly. She swallowed hard before continuing. Your grandmother hired investigators looking for you. The courtroom fell silent again. She never stopped searching. I felt my vision blur immediately.
No.
No, that couldn't. Ms. Alvarez's voice cracked. She died 2 years after you disappeared from a stroke. My hands clenched so hard pain shot through my fingers. She died believing she failed you. Somewhere behind me, someone gasped, but all I could hear was the sound of my own breathing. Because in one sentence, my entire life had changed. Every memory, every wound, every lie. And then the prosecutor revealed the final piece. There's one surviving audio recording from Naomi Carter's intake night. My mother went completely white. No, my mother whispered instantly. Not denial.
Fear.
Pure fear. The prosecutor placed a small recorder onto the evidence table while the courtroom watched in complete silence. This recording was recovered during the state seizure of Blackwood archives, he said. It documents the defendant's intake meeting the night Naomi Carter was surrendered to the facility. Surrendered? Not admitted. Not helped. Surrendered. My mother's lawyer looked physically ill now. He loosened his tie, without realizing he was doing it. "You told me this was temporary placement," he muttered. Nobody answered him. The prosecutor pressed play. Static crackled through the speakers first. Then a younger version of my voice filled the courtroom.
Crying. Panicked. Begging.
"Please don't leave me here. Mom, please." Every hair on my arm stood up instantly. I hadn't heard that voice in 18 years. 14-year-old me sounded terrified. Small. The recording continued. Staff members speaking calmly. Papers moving. Doors buzzing open somewhere in the background. Then my mother's voice cut through everything. Cold. Controlled. She'll say anything once she realizes she can't manipulate people anymore. A visible reaction spread through the courtroom. People shifted uncomfortably. One juror covered her mouth. But the recording wasn't done. A staff member asked, "Are you requesting temporary behavioral placement or permanent surrender review?" I stopped breathing, because suddenly I remembered this part. Not clearly. Fragments. My mother standing near the desk. Her purse over her shoulder. Her wedding ring catching the fluorescent light. Then her answer came through the speakers. Instant.
Certain.
Permanent. Someone in the gallery whispered, "Jesus Christ." My mother broke. "Stop the recording." Court officers moved immediately when she stepped forward. But the prosecutor held up a hand. One final section. The room went dead silent again. A staff member on the recording asked, "You understand Blackwood is currently under review for disciplinary isolation complaints?" And then my mother said the sentence that destroyed whatever was left of her. "Yes." A pause. Then, "That's why I chose this place."
Hold on. She knew that facility was already accused of abuse, and yet she chose permanent surrender. This just crossed into something way darker, didn't it?
The courtroom erupted. Not dramatically. Violently. Reporters rushed out talking over each other. Her lawyer backed away from the defense table entirely. Even court staff looked stunned. My mother started crying hard now, but nobody moved toward her. Nobody comforted her. Because for the first time, everyone could hear exactly what I heard at 14 years old.
She didn't lose me.
She got rid of me. Then she looked up at me through tears and whispered my name one last time. "Naomi." I stared at her for a long second without speaking. 18 years ago, that would have destroyed me. Hearing her say my name, hearing her cry. Back then, I still wanted my mother. Now, all I felt was exhaustion. The courtroom was still in chaos around us. Reporters rushing in and out. Officers repositioning near the exits. People whispering so loudly it sounded like static. But none of it mattered anymore. Because the truth was finally bigger than her version of it. The prosecutor stepped forward again, while my mother wiped at her face desperately. "There is one final matter for the court." Her lawyer looked up sharply. "There's more?" The prosecutor nodded. "We recovered internal financial correspondence between Blackwood administrators and the defendant's husband." My mother's eyes shut immediately, like she already knew what was coming. The prosecutor opened the file. Multiple payments were labeled under child retention incentives. A chill moved through the room. Then, he read the next line. "Resident Naomi Carter classified high-risk exposure liability." My stomach dropped. Exposure liability. Not daughter. Not child. Liability. The prosecutor continued. The emails discuss concerns that Naomi overheard financial misconduct connected to the Carter Foundation and could become a future witness. My mother finally snapped. "You don't understand what would have happened to us." Her voice cracked through the courtroom. "We would have lost everything." And there it was. The truth. Not fear for me. Fear for herself. Fear of losing money, status, reputation. She abandoned her 14-year-old daughter to protect her own life. The prosecutor lowered the documents slowly. "So you buried her instead." Silence. My mother looked around the courtroom desperately now, like she still expected someone to save her. Nobody did. Because the entire room finally saw what I spent half my life trying to understand. I was never abandoned because I was broken. I was abandoned because I became inconvenient. Court officers moved toward the defense table as the judge beside me announced immediate referral for federal criminal review. My mother started crying harder. Real panic this time. Because now she understood something I learned at 14 years old inside Blackwood. Once nobody believes your story anymore, the doors lock very fast. And as officers placed her in restraints, she looked at me one final time. Not like a mother. Like someone realizing the child she tried to erase survived long enough to become the person judging her. The metal of the restraints clicked shut, and that sound cut through the courtroom louder than anything else. My mother flinched at it like she hadn't expected consequences to feel physical. For a second, she looked around again, searching for someone to undo it, to interrupt, to call this a mistake. No one moved. Not her lawyer. Not the reporters. Not even the gallery. The judge spoke calmly beside me. Court will stand in recess, pending federal transfer proceedings. The gavel came down.
Sharp.
Final. But I didn't look away from her. Because she still hadn't fully understood what was happening. Not the arrest. Not the exposure.
Me.
She leaned forward slightly as officers guided her away. Naomi, she said again, quieter now. Fragile. Please. I can explain. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was too late. I finally stood from the bench. Every sound in the room shifted immediately, like the entire courtroom was waiting for what I would do next. I stepped down slowly. One step. Then another. My robe moved with me, brushing against the polished floor. My mother stopped walking when she realized I was coming closer. The officers hesitated for half a second. Even they didn't know if they should stop me. I stopped just a few feet away from her, close enough to see everything she'd tried to hide behind makeup and fear. Her eyes were red, her breathing uneven, still trying to be a victim of something she created. You didn't abandon me because you had no choice, I said quietly. Her lips trembled. Naomi, please. You abandoned me, I continued, because you thought no one would ever hear my side. Silence swallowed the room. I saw her swallow hard. For the first time, she had nothing left to say that could work. Not lies. Not excuses. Not versions. Just the truth sitting between us. Her voice broke. I didn't think you'd survive it. That landed differently. Not an apology. An admission. I held her gaze for a long moment. Then I stepped back. Not toward her.
Away.
Because there was nothing left to reclaim. Take her out, I said softly. And as the officers led her past the courtroom doors, she kept looking back, until she couldn't see me anymore.
The disturbing part isn't that one parent signs those papers. It's wondering how many facilities only stayed open because nobody ever believed the kids inside them, right?